The blue one. Hey guys, Southern Comfort here. I'm out into the garden and it's almost tater time. It's almost time to dig those potatoes. And I did a video on how to plant potatoes, how to grow potatoes. And we got some rain coming in 2 days. And then we'll be getting lots of rain. So I have been thinking about going ahead and digging these potatoes up for the fact of all the rain. Plus yesterday I dug some potatoes up and I noticed ant bites. That's definitely not what you want. Into the garden, when you look at your potatoes, they look fine. But then when you wash them up, yep, I hadn't even looked at this. When you wash them up, then you see differently. I don't know if you can see this, but it's like little specks, like holes. This is a beautiful potato, but the ants are already getting into it. Now they're up on the ground. They're up on the ground into tunnels, and you really don't even see them out here in the garden. The damage is done up under the ground. So it's not as much as about the rain, to a degree, wow, as all these ant bites. Are they still eatable? Yes, they are. So that's going to put me in a position to go ahead and dig these potatoes up. Ow, I only digged up 2 plants and I'm seeing this. Totally disappointed in that. So you see how beautiful these plants look. So I tell people, it's not about how beautiful your plants are looking. It's about what's going on underneath the ground. Is it ants, or you've got a lot of rain, or your potatoes gonna rot? So the plants look awesome. And I see a stink bug right there, so they're coming. And they'll be all over these potatoes for long, but it's that season because insects run in cycles. So I already pulled the plants up right here. It really is easier if you take and pull the plant up, then take your little fork or dig down. So the potatoes for red potatoes are nice. We don't really know what we're going to be getting. We're just going to go ahead and dig them up. Tomorrow I was going to take and do this, but I said, you know what, I'm going to go out there after last night. I said, you know what, after I cooked some potatoes and onions that grew in the garden, onion tops, and potatoes with butter and salt. That was it, a little bit of garlic. And when I see those potatoes, I was like, oh no. Because I couldn't tell it when I was into the garden. It's not a bad looking potato. It's just got that going on. So we definitely don't want to lose these. Beautiful potato. Wow. See, when potatoes are damaged, when they're like damaged from either from the rains or from insects, ants, then they won't store very long. So I'm looking at these potatoes and I can say, yep, that's a nice root. I can say another, say 11 days, 12 days, they would be even twice as big, because now they put on the skins. All they're going to do now is grow. What a root. Wow. That's a mother potato. The red potatoes are very good, but they don't usually produce as big as the Yukon Gold. I mean, I've had some huge ones. So let's take a look at the potatoes that I've already dug up in this little space right here. So if you're a backyard gardener, then you might have some issues with pests, like ants or the rains that come. But that field way over there, that field over there, you see how dark it is? You know why it's dark? They sprayed it with chemicals. I'm in this fence here, maybe I can get further back. But they sprayed it with chemicals. They sprayed it with Roundup. Everything's dead in that field. They killed all the weeds and everything. And I'm surely they got something they spray also to kill insects. So we do get some nice sized potatoes. So imagine another 10, 12 days how big that would be. But I'd rather go ahead and get it up than face the rains and ants. Nice sized root system though, look at that. Wow. It's nice, pretty. So we see also we see these little ones here. So give it 10, 12 days. These will probably be about that size, but we'll take it anyhow. We're good. So we've got to dig down in there. See one right there. But this is what we got so far. So I'm used to having bigger potatoes than this. But, you know, they sell those in the grocery store, right? I'm used to most of them being about that size. But we've only gone from there to here. And we already got that amount of potatoes. So now I'm at the place. Do I dig or not dig? I don't like the size of my potatoes at all. I can look at them and tell that, you know, give it another week or so, they'll be at the size that I'm used to, the size I want. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we dug 2 plants right there, and that's the end, of course, and it gets less water. So we dug right here like we did a while ago. We just dug right there, okay? And then I stood up, because when I dug those at the end down there, then I looked at these plants and look how beautiful they look. Okay, so then I decided to walk down here. As I'm thinking about the rain, I'm like, well, maybe this is the lower end, so maybe I ought to go down there. And this down there is where I've gone in there and dug a little bit, stole a couple of little potatoes. And it's probably messed with that root system. And it's been super hot today. And as you can tell, they need water. So I said, well, you know what? See how all these laying down now? It's getting near that time. But I'm not sure. I'm like, gosh, you know, the rains are coming. But when I dug up my Yukon Gold, when I dug these potatoes up, and that's a nice one, got a little deformed, but that one got hit probably with a fork. Who knows, that looks like it got hit by the fork when it's little. So, not bad, right? But then to begin with, I had a lot of little ones. And I'm just thinking, gosh, those could be some nice sized potatoes in just another week or so. At least get up to be bigger. I definitely that bigger, or, you know, bigger, just bigger. So that's what I did on this road, that little stretch. So I'm gonna dig down here and see what we get. I'm thinking about leaving some, like at that end, they're standing straight tall. That's a higher end. I might just test that to see how well they do. To dig or not to dig. Not bad on these right there. That's not bad. Oh, that's not bad. I like that. That's what I'm used to. But every season's different, so not bad for a red potato. Looking at it, pH is getting a little high. That's a mother potato. Not bad. Just trying to look at that skin. See, the concern is if you get too much, there's a potato there. If you get too much rain, then it can blister your potatoes. pH is high. I think my pH, which is going to do a video on my pH sample tester, soil test, and my pH is not as high as it usually is. I think it was like 6.3 or something like that. Something, not what I thought. Maybe it's 6.5. And potatoes like it, or I believe it's like 5.5. So my pH is still a little high, and the potatoes are showing it. My experience is that seems like that last week potatoes could be looking good, and it's like that pH jumps up. So the question still rises up: do I dig or not dig? To dig or not to dig? What keeps stopping me is the size of my potatoes. Now, don't get me wrong, they're nice sized potatoes. Most people don't get them about that size, right? And that's nice size. That is a very nice size for red potatoes. I like it when I see them this size. But my Yukon Gold are smaller. Now, they're nice size. No complaints. They're very nice. But I like them when I have them in like French fry size. That I really love that. I love to make homemade French fries. And so, to dig or not to dig? Basically because the Yukon Gold is not as big as I want them to be. So I've dug half and half. And right when I thought, okay, I'm not going to dig anymore and let it be, I ran right into ants, and ants down in there. It wasn't like it was kind of a colony, but not like a hill of them, just ants into the soil. And I said, okay, they got to come up. And then I go a little bit further, and I see big potatoes. And I said, okay, I'll dig them up. And then I said, okay, I'll take this one more plant. And then I'm like, I don't know. So to dig or not to dig. So I basically got half and half. Half of the reds and half of the Yukon Golds. So my plan was, see how tall these are standing? I said, you know what, maybe I'll just chance it and give it that more, a little bit more time, 12 days. So not a bad amount of potatoes. You see, that's for the red right there, just that section, and that section. And we got that amount of potatoes, so not bad. The Yukon Gold, this section only. And we got that amount of potatoes, so not bad. So not bad. The only thing of it is that the soil is already wet. The soil on here is wet. It'll eventually dry, but with this is black dirt, so when it gets wet, it stays wet. And so on the top of the soil, it looks dry. But up underneath, it is wet. So we're going to take that chance. I was going to dig them all up, not take a chance. But then when I look at the size of my potatoes, I like them a nice size. So we got a good amount here. We're going to see how it goes. And because you know how the weather is, they say one thing and it ends up being something else. So it might be something else. Then I'll say, daggone it, I should have left them in the ground. But the other thing is the ants. And so as I dug further, no ants. So they're coming. That's what that's telling me. They're coming. They notice this potatoes are ripening up. The mother potato, which is this potato, is some of them starting to rot or get to that place, and they'll be eating on this. And but they also eat on this, especially these Yukon Gold, because they are some good potatoes. They're buttery flavor, and these are my favorite potatoes. I grew up with the red potatoes, but I love my Yukon Gold. Well, anyways, stay tuned and see what happens. We're going to take this chance. We're going to let it roll. You know, potatoes are potatoes, whether it's this size or that size. We are to be thankful, and I'm very thankful. So I'm very thankful, and we're gonna let these cure for 2 weeks, and the small ones we're gonna take and we're gonna get as many of these out, can them, wash them up, see what the skin looks like. Still seeing it pH, see what the skin looks like. And you know, you got before 2 weeks, you can just wash these up real good and eat them. You don't have to worry about the skins. They'll be curing. The skins will get tougher as time goes on. And so what I like to do in that 2 week period, get as many small potatoes can as possible. See you on to the next video.